Yeah, you can sit over there. I think it would be great if you guys could give an introduction, who you are, where you're from, the company on which you'll be speaking today. I'll start with you, Alexander. Can you tell a little bit more about what you're doing?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Alex. I'm the founder and director of Space for Good, originally from Germany, and found my passion in using space technology for social and environmental impact.
My name is Marieke. I'm one of the founders of The Substitute. We're a platform and learning community of more than 80 home furnishing brands and interior professionals that are on a mission to foster the transition, the sustainability transition within the furniture industry.
Interesting.
Yeah, my name is Annemieke. I'm the founder of Enschede Textielstad. 10 years ago, I quit my job as a marketeer to start a weaving mill in Enschede. We produce sustainable fabrics from recycled and local resources for upholstery and fashion purposes.
Thank you. Very interesting to have you guys here today. All working on climate goals, sustainable development goals. Can you tell maybe a little bit more about how you guys are contributing to the sustainable development goals?
We are actually really, how do you call it? We foster the transition, so we do that in different ways. We give a floor to the sustainable alternative. We do that online, but also offline at events. Like, for example, we have a whole sustainable district now at the VT Wonen and Design Fair. That's one of the biggest design fairs within the Netherlands, or during Dutch Design Week. But we also search for media partners to also pay more attention to fast furniture and also the sustainable alternative. And we connect actually our whole community get together to exchange knowledge, and we also work with the government actually to see what are the barriers to in the transition and how can we solve them. So we recently launched a Reuse Alliance. With IKEA, Marktplaats, for example, and some other companies to really foster repair and reuse within the furniture industry. And then we're just going to learn. We're going to start with like a repair sign within normal retail to see if there are some clients want to repair, upholster their couch or something else instead of buying a new one, something like that.
Yeah, because that's where you guys have a link, right? Because you create textiles also for upholstery. Do you guys already work together?
Not yet. We know each other, and we talked. I think in the past we talked a couple of times, but I think we should do more together.
Yeah. Maybe that would be great afterwards. It would be a great start today from a good collaboration between you guys. I think it's very interesting because usually when you're talking about climate tech, you're used to be talking about renewable energy sources. And you guys are actually all doing something different, which also has a major impact on the environment. So can you maybe tell a little bit more, Alexander, about how your project helps with reducing our CO2 footprint?
Yeah, so Space for Good is a geospatial analytics company. So we're making use of satellite Earth observation, drone imagery, geographic information systems, and AI to understand our environment. We call it developing monitoring, reporting, and verification applications for nature-based solutions. So we assess, for example, deforestation events around the world. We assess whether trees have been really planted, whether forests are healthy, how much carbon is being sequestered, and also trying to assess how biodiversity is being affected, both through our industrial processes, but also through our regenerative processes. And accordingly, we provide insights, intelligence about the work and how we want to protect nature, protect our environment, and also what kind of consequences we create to our industries.
And what kind of customers do you have? Who uses your software?
Yeah. So, we maybe one step back on how Space for Good actually started. It was 2017, and we were just a network of people coming together in the evenings and weekends to do good with the technical skills we had. So there were people working for the government, for oil and gas companies, and they all felt the need somehow to still give back and support and help. And what we did, we came together in The Hague, the city of peace and justice, and tried to connect with NGOs and activist groups and say, hey, how can we help with the technical skills we have, and how can we connect to your vision, to your mission? And that's how Space for Good basically originated. So we started our journey working with NGOs like Amnesty International, but even like small activist groups who just wanted to protect local forests from deforestation. And over the time, we started getting more and more requests from governments, from bigger NGOs, and eventually also from other social enterprises in order to help them to create this transparency. So actually, we have a multitude of different customers, not only in the Netherlands, but by now actually in 50 different countries around the world.
Yeah, because it's very interesting. If you look up your website, you can see where all your projects are located around the world. And for me, one stood out. There's not a lot of things happening in North America.
No, North America hasn't been the focus for us right now. Indeed, originally we started realizing that tropical rainforest is both something which really requires support around monitoring deforestation, but actually also has so much potential for regeneration, for protection, for actually creating businesses, for creating jobs on site, and creating resources of who we here in the Netherlands and in Europe would also benefit from. And yeah, when you were speaking about, okay, how do you support on carbon, for example, like we support the carbon economy. So, for example, creating stronger, bigger, more accurate insights about carbon credits. Maybe you heard about the scandals around that carbon credits have been sold, and actually these forests have never been planted or don't exist anymore. And here, Space for Good, basically with our partners, want to go beyond compliance, want to create extra insights, creating new standards in order to mitigate those scandals in the future.
I think it's very interesting that you can actually make possible to monitor that stuff in the future, that we can keep track of how our plans are going with regards to reforestation and maybe other natural disasters that you can monitor as well. Maybe with the, I don't remember how they were called, the green ditches that they were digging in Africa for the plants.
Actually, there's a big initiative called the Great Green Wall. Yeah. Maybe if you're
just dig it.
Just dig it.
Just dig it. Yeah, actually, we don't work with them together yet, but indeed there's a huge initiative called the Great Green Wall, which requires both a lot of people on the ground, hands on the ground, but if you can also provide insights from space, why not work together?
So, because it's very interesting that you're using technology from space. It's a technology that already exists. But it's an entirely new application to use it for monitoring this kind of progress. Do you see other future applications for space technology, for climate goals?
Yeah, so actually my journey here in the Netherlands started working at the European Space Agency. I started my career here 10 years ago before, and I was studying engineering in Germany. So I was, of course, very much interested in high-tech and tech, and I thought, it doesn't get better than space, doesn't it? What I realized, though, the European Space Agency is, of course, a great place of ideas, but unfortunately it's not the ideas of the people working there. It's the ideas of other people, of industries, of entrepreneurs. So that's where I realized, actually, I want to be this entrepreneur. I want to use space technology to do business. So I didn't start as an impact entrepreneur. I started as an engineer, then I became an entrepreneur. And only a few years later, and I think that's also where we connected the first time, I got to know communities like the Impact Hub, like the Humanity Hub, like people who kind of reflect on, okay, why do I do business? Why do I do what I do? Like, what's the future? I can make money, but what then? And I think then topics of, okay, how do I support others? How do I protect our environment? How do I contribute to society became much more important. And that's where I realized, actually, I can combine those three things all together. My connections, my experience around tech, high-tech, space tech, my drive to start businesses and to use these businesses and use the technology for good. And I think there's so much potential around using existing tech, whether it's from space, whether it's from automotive, whether it's from the industries. You guys are all involved for good, for impact.
Yes, I definitely agree. But I think you can also tell a little bit more because Enschede, or actually Twente, is mostly known as a textile industry from our previous years, or our largest industry, I think, in the 70s. We were the biggest late textile, 60s, late 60s. Yeah. You do something completely different with fabric, but still in Twente.
It's the same but different, yeah. We try to innovate by producing on demand, so we don't have any dead stock or leftover fabrics because of the way we produce. Also, we don't use any dye stuff in our process, so because actually in textile producing, the dyeing is the most polluting part. There's still parts of Enschede where textile factories used to be, where new buildings can't be placed because of the chemicals in the soil still. So by not using any additional dye and still keeping the color from the recycled yarn that we use, we also save a lot of water, energy and resources. So it's a combination of different practices, and I strongly believe in practice what you preach. So also our office is built entirely from second-hand materials. We try to ship sustainably just to contribute to the better world.
And you're also doing some pretty interesting stuff with recycled textiles, if I read correctly.
We recycle textiles, and we also started a foundation with 5 other companies in the region in order to close the loop locally, from textile collecting to sorting to recycling it and then weaving new fabrics out of it. To make a closed loop and make it as circular and sustainable as possible.
Yeah, because I also read on your website that you do something with consumer articles, but also with company.
It's a little bit technical, but in recycling you have basically 2 waste streams. You have pre-consumer and post-consumer material. And pre-consumer is, for instance, cutting waste from the garment manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
If you cut a round shape out of a square piece of fabric, you always have some leftover materials. And instead of burning that or incinerating it, you can recycle it into a new yarn. But the better route, which is still under investigation, so only part of our textiles are made from post-consumer waste, but that is, for instance, your worn jeans. When they can't have a second life anymore, if they have a hole in it or are completely torn, then those jeans can be recycled into new yarns as well, with the addition of some virgin, so new fibers, to strengthen the yarn and make sure it's usable for upholstery or fashion, for instance.
I think it's really interesting because you see more and more on labels of clothing that it's made from recycled content, but it's almost never 100% recycled content. Is that going to be able in the future?
Well, I personally also think you need to make a difference between synthetic and natural fibers. We have a strong focus on natural fibers because of sustainability. You can recycle polyester very well, so if you have a closed loop system there, it can be a good resource for some products. But I'm not too big of a fan of polyester bottles in suits, for instance, or make shirts out of recycled PET, because you can turn a bottle into a bottle and you can turn cotton into a new suit. So 100% recycled at the moment is only possible with synthetic yarns. We did some trials. We just purchased a new loom which enables us to have more technical options with recycled resources. We did some trials with 100% recycled yarns, but we still have to test if the durability is also good, because to me sustainability and durability go hand in hand, because it makes no sense if you have a sustainable fabric that needs to be reupholstered after half a year, for instance. Yeah.
True. Well, thank you very much. That's also where you guys cross, using how much of the recycled fabrics are you already using, and how do people recycle their furniture?
Well, that's a good question. Furniture is very complex because furniture consists of a lot of different materials. So you've got textiles, you've got boards, you've got wood, you've got metals, you've got foam, PU foam, and they're all different. And they all have a different recycling stream, actually. So that's a big challenge. I think also if you look at the industry, it's a lagging industry. You see in the textiles, in clothing and in food, a lot of things are happening already, and people pay attention to sustainability themselves more and more. But furniture is a little bit of a blind spot up till now. There's more attention now for also the impact of fast furniture. But to recycle furniture, it's difficult. On the other hand, what's really nice and what is possible and what happens is second-hand furniture, especially when you make iconic design or good furniture. People do like to use it to have a second-hand piece in their homes, but it's a difficult process. I think that we're still at the beginning of these steps, and you do see a lot of, if you go back to the fabrics, you now see that a lot of players use recycled PET. That's getting more and more popular. But I think it's a step in between, because more and more research is also done on the impact of microplastics, not only on the environment but also in your home. And we all have like a credit card of microplastics in our lungs, but we're not completely sure yet what's the impact of that. So I think this is a step in between, and I also prefer more the natural materials. But on the other hand, I think we need both at the moment to make the transition. Yeah,
because everybody in the audience has furniture at home. How can they start making a difference with their furniture? How can they incorporate your thought of working with furniture and recycling it into their homes?
Yeah, well, we made our own sub-method, it's called, because you've got a lot of, I don't know if you're active in the circular economy, at least you've got all these things like reduce, reuse, refuse, recycle, repurpose, refurbish, repair. We found it quite complex. So we made the sub-method. It stands for save, use, and buy. So it starts with save. Just use what's already out there. So look for second-hand furniture. Repair or upholster what you already have. Antique, things like that. That's the first category. Then, do you really need to own your furniture, or is it something you could also lease or rent? Especially if you look at, for example, like furniture for a kid's room, or when you get a baby. I mean, you use these products for such a short amount of time. Do you really need to possess it? Or you can also work with players that rent them out. And then if you buy something new, then you can look at certain aspects. So it's the material composition. So is it bio-based materials, or is it recycled material? And then also please pay attention what's the percentage of recycled material? Because if you really dig into that, sometimes it's shocking to see that it's recycled. Oh, it's only 5%.
Yes.
Even some what is it again? Keurmerken. What's a keurmerk?
Certificates.
Certificates, thank you. Certificates are also already, you get this certificate with recycled content already if you have only 5%. And look at how it's designed. So if you buy a couch, for example, this is not a good example.
Why is it not a good example?
Well,
polyester to begin with.
It's polyester.
Okay.
So that's just oil. That's really impactful. Then there's for sure polyester foam in there as well. So it's also very impactful. I think this is steel, also very energy-intensive process. And it's not modular or something. Also the design principles, you see in furniture, you see a lot of new, I hoped I could see Frans, because he is implementing the eco-design rules, law at the moment. But it's not modular, for example. So now you've got this setting. Well, this one doesn't, if you have a different home and you need a bigger couch, you're gonna buy a new one.
Yeah.
But there are also couches now that are modular, and they consist of different elements, and then you can easily buy an element if you need more space, or you can return an element, or if you have like this corner in your the corner in your couch and you're moving and it's on the wrong side, we all know that.
Yeah, like, put it on the other side.
Now I need it on the other side, so that also helps.
So what would be the ideal, like you already sketched a modular, what kind of material would be great for new furniture? What does new furniture have to take or have to include to be a circular based piece? I think it starts with also using what's already out there. So I think we're in a transitioning phase right now, and I think it's very difficult to repair these types of couches as well. Everything is glued together, and you can't recycle the elements very easy. So it's difficult to do that right now. And also, if you do separate them, it's all broken, or you can't really make something out of it again. So to make new furniture, it should be easily. You can easily disassemble, you can easily repair parts. So it's first in the design, then it's on the materials you use. Or you use the natural materials. That can be in the natural cycle, actually. You can technically, like say, or you put it in the ground and then it biodegrades. Or you've got like closed loop systems, if you use polyester, that it still, you can still reuse and reuse it again. Like I think Auping is a great example. They have their circular mattress, Evolve. And that's glued together with Niaga, with a special glue, actually. So they can separate all these materials in mono streams again, and then make a new mattress out of it.
So that's another option.
That's really interesting. But also with a lot of recycled and circular products, you hear a lot of people talking, or at least consumers talking about the price difference, because a polyester couch glued together is probably way more cheaper than a ideal couch that you just sketched. How can we convince people to start investing in these circular pieces instead of going for the cheaper polyester option? What kind of impact are you making by choosing the other option?
Yeah, we're calculating it right now because these numbers weren't there. So where you can find a lot of information already on the impact of different types of fabrics, you couldn't find it on different types of foam or things that were used in the furniture industry. Well, the biggest impact you make is by using your couch twice as long, or three times as long. I mean, the average couch is used for only 7 years.
Okay,
that's average. Because on the other hand, you've got a lot of quality pieces and people that buy the more expensive furniture that lasts for 20, 30 years. So that's the first step. Just use your couch for a longer period. And then it's a question if it's still the more expensive option. Because you do see a very big difference in quality as well for the cheaper couches that are just, you can't sit on it anymore. Or there's like this hole in where you always like to sit. So. It's a question if it's still the... And we always say, combine with second hand. Like, for example, I just had some new curtains from the Ploeg. It's very high-end fabrics. And I bought them for like only 1/5 of the price on Marktplaats. So it doesn't have to be more expensive. So if you combine it, you can also do something with the price. And I think in the end, because we always hear this argument, like the mobile phone was in the beginning also very expensive. So it's also a development, and by scaling and by scaling techniques and new materials, I think things will get cheaper as well.
You're also trying to add?
Well, to add to that, of course, everybody has a different budget and not everybody can afford it, but try selling an IKEA couch on Marktplaats or a Vitra one.
Yeah.
Good design gets added value over time, so you can get more from it after you are done with it than when you buy a cheap piece of furniture. But of course, that's again something that needs to fit your budget. But
Quick question maybe, because I was at the conference on the bio-based materials in The Hague the last 2 days, and I held a shoe in my hands which actually costed €500,000. Why was it so expensive? Because they actually created it out of carbon they captured from the air. So they kind of really recircled shoe. The brand is On Running. It's a Zurich, Swiss-based company, and they produced now like these 3 pairs just to show what is possible in terms of recycling. But of course, nobody's going to buy the shoes, or very few. So their goal is now to reduce the cost of manufacturing, and it's not going to be overnight, it's going to take years. Mm-hmm. But they also said they're going to be experimenting with different business models, that you don't own the shoe anymore. You're actually going to be renting it. And this way the company can also ensure that eventually you give the shoe back, so they can have their closed recycling systems. Is this something you also experiment with?
Yeah, we have some customers, for instance, that do office furniture, and they offer the furniture as a service. Yeah. So, Philips did that with lighting as well in the past, that if you offer a good piece of furniture, it's your responsibility to replace it when it's broken. So you choose better quality materials to start with. Because as the supplier of the furniture piece, you don't want to replace parts every week. So you get better furniture in those business models than if you just spend your budget once to decorate a whole office and own the furniture. So it's leasing, renting, service contracts, things like that do happen. Also, we worked with Gispen and ABN AMRO, big bank. They decided to redecorate their offices but switch all the furniture around. So we delivered some upholstery for yellow couches that the seating area was torn down, but the side parts were just still good. So they replaced some parts of the fabric and then gave the furniture a second life. Something like that also happens more and more often.
Yeah, and take-back schemes. So I think the startups that are within our community, most of them that design modular and circular couches also take back the elements, like what I said. And you can easily have another seating, but you can also hand it in again after you used it and then get some money back also as a customer. And they get their materials back because, materials are going to get scarcer in the coming years.
Yes.
We only have copper for 40 years now.
I think it's very interesting because I think a lot of people don't have these insights because you're not in the industry. It's very interesting that we sit on a couch daily, but I have no idea how it's made and what it's made of and how I can reuse it in the future. Yes, I sell the stuff on Marktplaats when I'm done with it and try to buy a new couch and try to look for, like, this has something have an eco certificate. But of course, it's very difficult to see how much percentage of the furniture is also reused. How can we change this in the future? Is there going to be, you already touched on the regulation from Frans that he's working on, is that going to make it more insightful in the future, how we can buy our stuff and how much of it is recycled?
Well, that's his plan, and I hope, I think he's implementing quite some interesting legislation right now, and I hope it's going to happen and quick. You already see some pushback from the industry, of course, on different things they want to implement. But one of the things they're focusing on is empowering the consumer, because it's with the Green Claims Initiative, but also on a product passport. Because right now it's really difficult indeed to see what's in a couch. I mean, I didn't know anything about it before. I mean, I was a banker, that's why we know each other, also with a bank, but different bank. But
that's for the Dutch people joke together.
That's indeed couch. Yeah. That's true. Sorry, that's really stupid. Yeah. Couch.
I think it's a good joke. I think it's a good joke.
Well, it's been a while that I spoke in English. It was then. Now I'm mainly working in Dutch. But no, but I think that needs that. I mean, we're developing also an educational program, because in the furniture industry, 85% is small and medium enterprises. So it's different, I think, than in textiles, where you have a lot of big companies and multinational companies. I mean, we have IKEA, or there's IKEA, but there's a lot of small, medium enterprises, and you have to take them. You have to guide them in the transition, because they don't have a sustainability manager or a whole department that can dig into everything. They need to be guided with what's happening, what laws are being implemented, and what does that mean for me, and how can I change my business model? Because I think a lot of here at the Dutch at the conference is on tech also, but I think one of the biggest innovations is our system change at the moment, and the way of working and doing business. I think that also is a big change that we need a lot of innovation power on as well.
Yeah, do you also agree? Because I think all of you guys are doing something very interesting and very innovative. Do you hit any bumps in the road with regards to legislation or adaptability from people? Maybe for you?
So maybe to first speak about tech. I'm a techie. I'm kind of tech first, and I have also to say that with the technology we've been working with, we have been looking for problems. Well, I would recommend for any future entrepreneur over here, like, start with the problem and then eventually find the technology which best fits the bill, even if it's pen and paper. So for me, technology can have three roles, like to create more insights about the matter at hand, the thing we want to change, basically something what Space for Good is doing. The second role of technology can be to bring people together, to make it easier to coordinate, to unlock new business models, to unlock new industries. But I think there's still where technology can be a direct solution as well. Maybe some of you heard about direct air capture, or carbon capture and utilization, or carbon capture and storage. And this is like really technologies which can address like excess carbon we have in our atmosphere, to draw it down, to store it, to utilize it again. And in this cases, technology is not just a facilitator. In this cases, technology can also be really a solution. And I think when we're now speaking about obstacles and challenges, I think we come across obstacles both on a political level, about on a business level, on an economic level, but also on a mindset level. And I think all of them need to be addressed somehow. The mindset, it's like people thinking on a short-term level, like closed-mind thinking, lack of connectiveness, lack of empathy for each other. On the business part, it is like a lot of businesses are built on extraction, on monopolies, on power imbalances. And yeah, of course, policy kind of facilitating our current mindset and our current business interests and kind of pitching maybe different interests together or against each other. So I think we need to address them all. And I think for us, the easiest way is to A, change our mindset, and B, as an entrepreneur, to like just lead this as an example, at least to inspire others, but preferably to be very successful and create the paradigm we are all looking for.
Yeah. But also because you're all business owners, and there's always this balance of you have to make a profit to keep your business sustainable, but you also don't want to add everything to the consumer. You're busy working with an ideology with circular tech or climate tech. So how do you find a balance in that as a business owner to do what you're doing?
At the end of the month, we still have to pay bills. There's bills, there's salaries to be paid, and those are also increasing with inflation, but of course also of your workforce getting older and getting different demands, having different requirements. So I think profitability per se is like, you can balance profitability and impact, but it's not by default. You have to make it so. And I think in our old economy, profitability, particularly in startups and in venture, it meant like 10 times profit. And that's something what scares me. I think 10 times profit I only can do if I'm kind of pushing everyone else aside, where I create a monopoly, where I secure the sites, where I also play unfair. And I think so profitability maybe has to be defined by maybe a 2 times or 3 times return of investment for an investor is sufficient. Perhaps it's more about collaboration and kind of supporting the whole ecosystem as a whole instead of just having one market leader monopoly in the Netherlands, in Europe or so forth. And just also sharing the benefits, like not just with your shareholders, but indeed with the stakeholder economy we're all trying to work towards.
Yeah, you've got really nice new business models also are like steward ownership instead of shareholders. You get a steward ownership, so the company is you separate actually the investors, the financial incentives from the profits, and most of the profits just flow back into the missions or the impact mission of the company. So they separate it, and you see more and more companies, impact companies, going for these types also of how do you call it, of ownership structures.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also think it really helps if you do something out of passion for your profession, instead of starting a startup just to sell it as quick as possible for as much money as possible. Because I think if you measure your success not only in money but also in happiness of the people that you're working with, your impact on the environment, the impact on your local community, things like that, if you take that into account, your whole definition of success is different, I think.
I think that's very interesting. I also said, I read it on your website, and I think you said it just now, you're an impact entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Do you also consider yourselves impact entrepreneurs?
Yes.
You as well?
I don't label it, but yeah,
you don't label. You're also very hands-on because you're still working with the machinery as well in your company, right?
Yeah, we're quite a small company, so everybody does everything from reeving to wrapping parcels. But I also really like that, just to be part of the process, and
And I think what's also really important in this context is to mention education, and we kind of now creating new ideals about what it means to be successful, what it means to be fulfilled. I think like 20, 30 years ago, it was like getting rich as fast as possible and then just kind of showing off your richness, retiring somewhere early and just kind of spending money. And I think right now, particularly with new generations, people starting to work for us, they have very different ambitions. They don't want to stop working as soon as possible and trying to maximize then the economic income in this time. They want to do something what they feel connected with, where they can give back, where they can support each other. And doesn't need to happen basically within the 5 or 7 year cycle. It actually requires long-term thinking. And as such, they see, okay, I need to create building stones of like, how do I create impact? How do I create an ecosystem around me? And how do I stay relevant to it?
I think it's a very interesting insights that you all shared. I really want to thank you all 3 of you, for not only your presence here on the stage, but also your presence with your impact entrepreneurship. Yes, thank you very much, and I hope to see more of your work in the future, and I hope that everybody in the audience has some sort of insight gathered from this meeting or this conversation about what you can do yourself to create an impact either with your furniture, either by choosing different textiles, or by monitoring or be able to monitor what we can do to overcome reforestation. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.